I don't have it, Elizabeth. No audio? Okay. And everybody, did I get like kicked out because I see everybody's? Tell them hang on, technical difficulty. I got kicked out. All right, so can everybody hear me? Okay, not sure what happened there, but the screen disappeared and then I'm talking and nobody's hearing me. So let's start over. My name's Linda Debe and I'm doing this organizational webinar. And so the first question that we really need to ask when we're looking to organize both files, electronic and paper, is what's the best way to organize them? We have to kind of do that evaluation. There is no handout, but I will send everything out, the PowerPoint out to you guys after, or put it out on the website for everybody to get on Facebook and possibly also on YouTube. All right, so first we have to figure out how you think. That's the most important thing because we all think differently. Some of us think linearly, some of us think jump around A to Z to B to Q, and others are A, B, C, D. And then we have to design that plan for organizing our files around how we think. So you can ask 10 different people how they organize their files, but if they don't organize the way you think, you're not going to be successful with their organizational plan. All right, so then you have to put that plan into practice, evaluate it, and make changes as you say, you know what, this I thought would work, but it's not, so let me change this. I've changed my organization on my file system several times in the past 20 years. I think I finally got one that I like. And then you repeat. So it's a circle of, it's a process that you're going to start out and go through it, and then when you're done, you're going to go back to the top and go through. So don't be afraid if you start something and you decide it doesn't work for you to change it. That's okay. So we're going to do a little quiz here and find out what kind of organizer you are. And once you've done it and we've gone through the different ways there are, you can go ahead, excuse me, if you'd like, and you can go ahead and post in the chat log what kind you really are. So we have our groupers and our sorters. These are our OCD people. You put like items together in some sort of order. Alphabetical, numerical, by date, by color, or by likeness. You group things. All right, so the audio should be on. I am speaking. I think most people can hear me. If you can't hear me, there is a phone number that you can call in and listen. It's probably with the computer. Okay, I'll sit a little bit closer to my microphone and hopefully it won't be going in and out. If we still have problems, let me know. Now, the second kind of organizer that we have is a lumper and a clumper. That's what I like to call them. They kind of dump like items in a bucket and then they just go through it when they need to. Kind of like your clean laundry clothes out of the dryer. You dump them in the basket and you might just go through that basket until it's empty to wear those clean clothes, rather than hanging them up and putting them in your closet by color, by size, by short sleeve, long sleeve, making sure they're hung the same way. So this is just putting things in bigger groups and categories. All right, so I see somebody's a lumper. That's me. I kind of bounce between the two. I lump things, and then in my lumps, I group and sort them. All right, so we're going to have about 5 or 6 items. Just quickly look at them and decide how you would sort these items. First thing we have is a mortgage bill. It's due on the 1st, and it's almost $700. We have a Sears credit card due on the 25th. The amount's $45 with a balance of $150. A cell phone bill due on the 15th of the month. The amount's $140. A water bill due on the 5th of the month. The amount is $8.35. And then the electric bill due the 5th of the month, with the amount being $140. Okay, so I see organize the bills by due date, by pay date, or due date by because of paydays. Bills always go by due date. So is it just due date? You don't sort them after that due date? Just say, okay, everything goes by due date. Just a pile till it gets paid. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cue our imaginary Jeopardy music. And go ahead while you're doing that and put those in the order that you see is for your way of thinking how to do it. All right, so how did we do it? Did we organize them by due date? I saw a lot of due dates in there. A lot of due dates. So by due dates, then they would go the mortgage bill, the water bill, the electric bill, cell, and Sears. Now maybe some of you organize them by bill type. The mortgage bill, the water bill, the electric bill, cell, and Sears, because the mortgage, water, and electric bill are all things that you have to survive in this world. Cell phone bill is an optional bill, and the Sears card would go last because it is definitely an optional bill. Now we've got 2 other ways to do it. Did you organize them by the amount due? If you're trying to pay off all your bills, a lot of times you'll organize them by the most expensive bill to the least expensive bill. So you make sure you pay as much as you can. Or you might sort them out by the lowest bill to the highest bill. Or did you just alphabetize them? The cell phone bill, the electric bill, the mortgage bill, the Sears, and then the water bill. Okay, what this does is we're just trying to understand what kind of organizer we are. This was just my example. It was very easy to do. And then once we get through this, then we'll go on into the genealogy piece. So which way of those 4 is right? Well, they're all right. So the right way to organize something is the way that makes sense to you, so that you can understand why you've organized it that way. You can understand what goes where, why it goes where it does, and you can find it when you need it. And these are the keys to devising that organizational filing system for your genealogy. You have to understand how you organize and how you think and how it makes sense to you, so you can know what files go where, why it goes where it does, and then you can go back and find it when you need it. So let's look at the big picture. So we need to evaluate the types of files that we have now. I'm sure most of us have a lot of census records. We've probably got some birth certificates, some death certificates, some obituaries maybe. Maybe some of us even have some pension files. But we also have to think about those files you may get in the future. Maybe you don't have those pension files, but you've got a trip planned in NARA, and you're going to go get those pension files or those military applications or some file that's not necessarily one of those standard things you think about that you can pull off the internet, but where you actually have to go get them. Your probate records, your land records, different things like that. So you have to kind of think in advance of what else am I going to need to file once I get it, so that you can put that in your plan of organization. And then how can we sort everything? We can do it by types of records. A lot of people do it by that way. Do census, birth, marriage, death, put all those, lump them together in folders, and then break them out in those folders. Some people sort them by location. Now, Elizabeth does it this way. That's my daughter. She has her filing system set up by state, then by county, and then inside each county, all of the cities that are in that county as she finds her documents. You can sort them by dates. Maybe somebody wants to sort all their files by the 1800s, the 1900s, and the 2000s. Nothing wrong with that. If that's how you think, then that's going to be the best way for you to do your sorting. You can sort by family name. Yes, Deborah, you can reload and rejoin if the audio is going in and out. So there's a lot of talk on a lot of the websites on Facebook or on the groups about sorting by family name and where to put the spouse and where to put the married women and the children and where do they go. We're going to cover a little bit of that, so maybe make some more sense for you. Or you can sort by your family line, meaning by the branches that you have. So instead of just by the name Smith, Jones, Brown, and Black, you can sort them by the family branch that you have. So your father's father's line, your mother's father's line, your mother's mother's line, and so forth. Yep, location then surname would absolutely work. Again, if that's how you think, then that's the right way to do it. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about Windows Explorer and how to use that. All right, so some of you are doers where you have to do with me, if you can, by all means, open up your Windows Explorer. And what I'm going to do is I am going to go over my Windows Explorer with you. Bear with me one moment. Okay, yeah, we're not going there yet. All right, so this is my flash drive that I have. It's a Passport. It's a 1 terabyte flash drive. And this is for the webinar. So I have a master file list. Okay, and when I say Windows Explorer, I mean your computer Explorer, not necessarily Internet Explorer. So where you see all of your files on your computer. Okay, so in my master file list, I'll open this up. All right, so this folder, the master file list, right here that we have highlighted, has all of the folders to start a new tree, because many of us have multiple trees. So if I'm going to start a new tree for, say, my neighbor who wants to find out about her family, I would then take this file and copy it and create her family tree starting line. So if you look at mine, my regular one, I actually have an adopted tree and a biological tree. So I took this file and copied it and made it into the adopted tree and the biological tree. That way I don't have to recreate these files. They're all here. Birth certificates. Anything to do with births go in this file. Anything to do with cemeteries, christening, deaths, divorce, immigration, international census, land records, marriage records, military, naturalization, newspaper articles, obits, exactly, just like a template. Photos, your probate, your state census, your U.S. Census, and your wills. So these are all the folders on my computer where I will eventually place all of my files. But this is my template. I don't ever put files here because I have it labeled as the master file list. Okay, then the next folder I have in my family tree data is an organizational files. Now in here, I'm going to put all those spreadsheets that I found on Facebook and all those tracking forms and those blank forms and any other items that help me understand how to organize. This webinar, the files that I'm going to produce from this webinar, you could place in your organizational files folder so you can then go back to that anytime. Everything will be in there. Once you start building this up and have different things, then you can break it out into different folders under organizational folders. Okay, now I created this one. It's called Files to Research. Files to Research, all that is, let me close this other window so we don't get too many pulling up. This is where is my inbox. So if I go to the library and I search on Ancestry and I find 10 items through Ancestry and I've copied those documents to my computer or to my flash drive, when I come home, I'm going to stick it in this Files to Research box. That means I have to review that documentation and make sure it's the right person and make sure that they do match in my tree. Because when you're at the library, as most of you know, you're limited with how much time you can be on the computer. So when I go to the library, especially with Ancestry, and I get on their computer, I just go in and I do a name search and I pull everything off of there and I dump it in my Files to Research. I'm not going to look at it and see if it's the right person. I'm just going to get as much as I can because I don't have an Ancestry access. I don't have that subscription. I can't afford it. I use my library. That's what I pay my taxes for. So I go to the library and do that. I just grab everything I can, photos and everything, and I dump it into Files to Research. So they're going to go in there. So I can click in my Files to Research tab at any time and see the amount of documents that I need to look at and actually go through to make sure that they are my family before I place them in my database. And I'll go ahead and show you on my adopted line. Here's my Files to Research. As you can see, I have 60 items in here that I need to review and put in my database. But that helps me keep track of what files have I put in my database and what files have I not put in my database. Okay, so that's going to be in the Files to Research. And so as I said in here, this allows me to put everything I need to review or evaluate and then input those into my legacy software. So now, okay, Deborah, I'm sorry. I'll have it posted up later on, and hopefully you'll be able to hear it better and everything will come through on the recording. And it may be because we have so many people joining still. So I do apologize. And if the recording doesn't turn out, I'll re-record it with just me, and then I will be putting it in out on YouTube with a good solid sound recording for you. Glad to hear that Denver is hearing me. All right, so now I've got a file called Master Copies in Legacy. What that is that's where my actual files are. So again, right now I'm showing you just for the organizational webinar, all my files are blank. There's nothing in any of them. But on my tree information, there are. But if you look, the Master Copies in Legacy, these files over here are exactly the same as what is in my master file list, because again, as somebody stated, this is a template. I'm never going to put anything in here. This is for me to use in case I ever start a new tree. Okay. Now the way I do it, yep, master file is the template. So I put everything, because when you have electronic files, the question has arisen, where do I store my files if it's got more than one person's name on it? So I'm looking at the 1940 census with a husband and a wife and 5 kids. So that's 7 people. Do I put that census with all 7 people? Do I put that census with just the head of household? Do I put that census with the head of household and the wife, and only the person of the children who are my direct line? How do I do it? Well, for me, for storage, I want to only have that file one time. So what I do is I put it in my master copies folder, one of these folders here. I'd put the U.S. Census in here, and then I would make shortcut links in here and then place them with every person. So if you have names of people and you're sorting it by names, instead of putting that document on your computer 5-7 times with each individual person, you put it in your master copies folder, and then you make shortcut links to put in everybody's name folder, so it will point back to your master copies folder. And that way you only have the master copy one time, and you don't have to, when you're doing a search and you find 10 of them, which one is the right one, which is the one that is the clearest or anything like that. You've got your one copy in your master's copy folder, and then the shortcuts go to each person. Now I'm going to show you an example of that through my adoptive line tree. These are my master copies of everything I've put in my tree so far. And you can look here and you can see that they are all images. And then here's my name lines. So if I go into my dad's main line and I click on his name, see this little arrow right here? That means it's a shortcut. So the 1940 census he was on, and so I can then either click on this shortcut, or I can just go up to my U.S. Census because I know that's where it's at, and I can scroll down to that 1940 census that he's on, and it's going to be this one right here. because I created a shortcut link. Okay, so shortcut links, what are they? They're basically where you take a file or a picture, whatever it is that you have. If you right click on it, you're going to come right down here and create a shortcut. So a shortcut is just a pointer that points to a file somewhere on your computer. Everything on your desktop is a shortcut. When you click on that link to open that program, it's going to go into your filing system and find out where that executable file is and then open it. So anything with that little arrow, if I do create a shortcut, anything with the little arrow pointing like it's going backwards to something is a shortcut. No, the shortcut concept works on your Windows computer. This is all on my hard drive. So this has nothing to do with a particular database. This just has to do with I'm keeping all of my files in one place, and then I am creating shortcuts to put them in each individual named person's folder so I don't have multiple copies of the same document. Macs, I do believe, also allow you to create shortcuts, but they're called aliases. Thank you, Linda Maddox. I appreciate that. So you can do this on your files on your computer so that you know you can then quickly look. I can quickly look here at my dad's name, and I can see that the only thing I have about my father is his 1940 census. Well, he doesn't have a 1930 census. He was born in 1934. So for the censuses, the next one that I'm going to have is going to be the 1950. But once I get his birth certificate, then that will be a shortcut link in here for him. And then I can look under his name and quickly see that I now have his birth certificate, his death certificate, his obituary. All right, and Louise has it exactly right. By creating shortcuts, you're not going to eat up your hard drive space. And if you ever need to replace that item, you only have to replace it in one location instead of all 5 or 7 names. And God forbid you run into a family that has 15 children and each one of those children have 15 children. You're going to have the same file multiplied 17, 18 times. And correct, a shortcut means you cannot change the name or the location of the file or you break that link. So once you put it in your master file, in your master copies, this is where you need to make sure that it's named how you want it to be named and that it's in a place where you want it to stay. Let me go back up here, over here. So you need to make sure these are all named how you want them to be named and they're in a place where you want them to stay, because if you move them from here or change that name, this link will no longer work because this link is specific to this one file. You can shortcut pictures too, and that leads us into our next piece right here, tags in Windows Explorer. You can tag Word documents, Excel documents. I have found you can tag just about everything. Okay, the shortcut is only going to go in your Windows filing system. So what I would do with that shortcut that I made, this one here, so it's going to go to Jacob DB. I would just grab that shortcut, and you see it says move to marriage certificates. Well, I don't want to put it there. I want to come down here to my Jacob, and I want to put it in there. So now when I go to Jacob, there's his shortcut. Now, the only file that I have found that you cannot tag is a PNG file. So we're going to go up here and look at these U.S. censuses again. If you look here, these are all JPEGs. They should be able to get a tag. These are our tags. What tags do is they keep your file name short. The only file is called a P as in Paul, N as in Nancy, G as in George file. That is an image file. I've looked, and for some reason I can't put tags on a PNG file. So that's why I try to save all of my photos and my images as JPEGs. Now, a lot of people say your JPEGs, you're going to have loss on the how it looks and the quality of it. The only time you have that loss is if you open the file and then resave it or rename it. So what you want to do is, if you have a file, you open it and then you close it. You make no changes to it. If you need to change the name, you're going to right click on it and you're going to come down here and rename it. I've never saved a TIFF, so I don't know if TIFFs can be tagged or not. I will definitely check that out. I'll have Elizabeth write that question down. I'll check that out and I'll make a post out on Facebook about that. So as you can see here, we'll pick this one right here, this 1930 census for my grandfather Lewis. Well, on this census, there was also Mylan, Marie, Phyllis, and Temperance. So I put them in here as tags. I can now search my files if I need to find this, and I can type in Temperance, and this file is going to come up because the tag is right there. Yep, and TIFFs are very, very large. You're not going to change your census records. You're not going to alter them. You're going to take the picture or, download the file, and that's it. You're going to name it once. If you rename it, if you right click and rename it, you'll never have any additional loss. Okay, so tags are what you're going to put on a file to help identify the people in the file, to identify where the file came from, to identify the year, to identify anything you want, so that you don't make a huge long name. Because if I had named this file 1930 Census Minnesota Duluth DB Lewis, and then added everybody else's name in the family that was on there, Mylan, Marie, Phyllis, and Temperance, this file name would be extremely long. So how I've named it is with my head of household. These names over here are head of household. And then on my tags, I put the last name, and then I put all of the first names of the people on that census. So if I were to take this one right here, I can come down here, and you see right here it says tags. Add a tag. On here, I can say Phoebe, and then George, and then whatever else was in there. And I don't remember off the top of my head anybody else that was on that particular census. So there, now he's been tagged. I can go to this one. I can tag this as DB, William. You can even tag it as Waterloo, and even Iowa, and then put it in there, and there are my tags. So you can tag all of your files with other identifying information so that you can search it. So now, up here in this search box, if I click there, I should be able to type in Temperance. Let's see, and a search filter. Okay, bear with me one moment. Now it's not wanting to work. You're supposed to have a place up here where you can search for tags, and then it will search your tagged files. For some reason my computer's not doing that, but as you can see, I have several files already tagged. Some of them I don't have tagged. I've got to go in there yet still and do that. Yes, it is a lot of work to tag it, but if you get in that habit of when you attach the file or put the file in your filing system, which again is for me under my master copies for that particular tree, then you tag it at that point. You can get further behind, and as you can see just on my census records, I still have several files that I have not tagged yet. Yes, you can tag on a Mac. It's called Alias. Okay, so to get the tag column to show, if you go up here where you've got the name and the date and everything, if you right click, you can select different tags that are different columns that you want, and you just check or uncheck your tag box. And then what happens is it moves the tags at the end, and I like it right up here by my file name. I don't care about when I did it or the type it is, but it's right there. I am using Windows, let me see, I don't remember. I think it's Windows 7. Yeah, and my tablet is Windows 8, but this is Windows 7. The tags, absolutely. So up here where the name is at, you're going to right click, and you can right click on the name. You can put a check mark next to whatever files that you want. So a lot of people, when they have photos, if you're a photographer, you might have a rating system and how you rate your photos. This is a really good photo, so you want to see all those good rated photos. And this one was kind of blurry, so I'm going to not rate it or rate it as a 1. So by putting that rating system on there, I could say that this was a pretty decent copy of the census, and I can go ahead and rate it as such. And maybe this one wasn't, and I can rate it differently. That way, sorry about that. It just opened up the file. So you can put a rating system on if you want. That's, you know, if you do a lot of photographs, that might be something you'd be interested in. But for, well, it could work for genealogy, because if you do get a bad copy of a census, but you can still make it out, and you want a better copy, you can rate it lower so that you know if you find a different copy that you can go ahead and get that and replace it. I'll go ahead and take that rating off. So that's tags, and that's kind of where we were at here, tags. Now I'll show you some PNG files and show you what I mean. I think my birth certificates. Yeah, see, here are PNG files, and here are my tags. When I click on that tag, it doesn't show up down here in the window for me to make a tag for it. So that's why I say PNG files cannot be tagged. So what I'm going to have to do, every one of these birth certificates, I'm going to have to go in and change them to JPEGs so that I can tag them. Okay, and I do believe somebody did say that you can tag TIFF files. Okay, and somebody just said PDFs cannot be tagged. So let's see here. We'll go in here and we'll add the tags, and we'll roll them over here, and we'll take this one, and looks like they are right. You can't tag a PDF at this point. But for most of your files, you will be able to tag them. So like my genealogy counter, I can throw in tags right here. But sure enough, for my PDFs, you can't tag those. So there may be additional files that you cannot tag, but for those images that you download, you can definitely tag those. Okay, let's see what. So changing a name after linking to a database. Somebody mentioned that. Absolutely not. If I have created my files here in my US Census, and because they're in here, I know they're in my genealogy database, and they've been linked to my genealogy database. So when I add the picture there, I say, remember where I've got it on my computer, and I move this file or I rename it, the links no longer work from the database to my filing system, so that link is broken. So linking in your database is the same as creating shortcuts. Once you change that file name, the link is broken and it won't work. Okay, so changing files from PNG to JPEG, if you go File, Save As, and I'll go ahead and do one for you. We'll go to my birth certificates and I'll take this one. If I just right click, let's see, because they're both images, I should be able to go rename and change this to .jpg. See, nope, that didn't change it. So you would have to open the file and then go Save As. So open the file, go Save As, and then it will change that name. So if I go here and open it with, we'll just open it with Paint. Hopefully that doesn't take too long. All right, so there it is. I can then go Save As and do a JPEG picture. I want to keep it the same name. I'll hit Save. Now transparencies are going to be lost because PNGs have transparencies, and that's okay. And then I'll close that. Now we look here. I have a JPEG file and a PNG file. No tags on the PNG, but I have tags on the JPEG. Okay, if you're not seeing this information down here on the bottom on Windows 8, I believe there's a function in there that you can turn it on under the view the options, because some things you can see and some things they automatically turn off, but I believe you can turn that on. We'll also keep that one on the back burner, and if I find the answer to that on how to do it, I'll go ahead and let you know. What are we needing to go back over, Linda Hill? How to change a file? Yeah, Windows 10 is coming out soon. I'm scared. Okay. So Elizabeth will be watching for what we needed to go back over. For now, we'll go on to this other part of naming of your files. Reverse order. Now, I've watched several of Jeff's webinars with Legacy. I don't know how many of you have been on his as well. But he lists everything in reverse order so that you can easily sort it. So as you see, all of my files, last name, first name, and then what it is. Is it a birth record? Is it a birth index? Maybe the year to help tie that because there's no name on it. So the census is the easiest thing to look at. So I go by year first, and then I go by state, and then city, and then the name of the head of household, last name, and then first name. Now here I have two last names because My grandfather was actually living with somebody else at that time. So he was the head of household. My grandfather was just a member of his household, but this is in reference for my grandfather. That's why it's there. So you always want to do it in reverse order, because if you sort it, if you did it by city then state. So if I have Charlotte, North Carolina, and then Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I sort them, I'm going to see Charlotte, North Carolina, then Colorado Springs, and then maybe I have High Point, North Carolina. Then I'll see another North Carolina. So my North Carolinas are not together. There again, how do you sort? I want to see all my North Carolinas together, so I'm going to put all the North Carolinas first. I'm putting North Carolina first, then I would have Charlotte, then I would have High Point, and then Colorado would be in a group with all the other Colorado cities. So after looking at this and doing this webinar, as you can see, the way your computer sorts, it sorts by the first character in your file name. So if I clicked on my name and I did a sort, all my 1850s are going to come up first. Then it's going to sort everything by census. Well, hopefully everything in here is a census. Then for 1850, it's going to sort by state. 1860 state. So let's go down where we've got a bunch. Here's some 1910 censuses. I've got quite a few of them. Colorado's first, then Iowa, and that's all I have. But in Colorado, then it's going to go first view. Well, they're both in first view. So then it's going to go by last name and then first name. So understanding how your computer alphabetizes things, starts over here. If the characters are the same, it goes to the next character. If those characters are the same, it goes to the next character. So I probably should have sorted these by state first and put the city or the year of the census a little bit later, maybe between the city and state and the name, so that things would stay a little bit more organized. But this is how I've got it, so this is what I'm living with, because I'm not going to go in and rename all these and then reattach them. I'm going to try to do these a little more often than I have been. It's been a while since I've done one, but I will definitely post information out on the Facebook pages as to when another one is going to come available. And then I also have my YouTube channel, so if you do miss one, now that I've figured out how to record everything, I will go ahead and post this out to the YouTube channels as well. Okay, so somebody here says they name their census by location, year, and then head of household. The order that I recommend what works for you. How does your brain think? After looking at how I've done this, I would definitely say you want to go reverse order by state, then city, and then by last name of the head of household, first name, and then by the year. And what that will do is it will put, like these here, it would put Ohio, then Tuscarawas, and then DB, and then Jacob. So these two would be together, and then the 60 would be on top of the 70. And then if we come down a little bit further and we found another Jacob DB, we'll just pretend this is, then this one would be there. So again, state, city, last name of head of household, first name of head of household, and then the year of the census. Make sure when you're labeling and naming these, as you can see, my last name is only the first letter is capitalized, but the first name is not capitalized. If I change this, it's going to break my links. So I'm kind of stuck with this, and it's not consistent, because sometimes my first name is capitalized and sometimes it's not. So my YouTube channel is my name, Linda Debe. And it should have a picture, I believe, of my daughter on there. Maybe one of me and my daughter. You sent that to me? Okay. All right, so, and when you're setting up your system, which is kind of what this first week of the do-over is evaluating what you have and how you want to organize and get things set up. These are the things you have to look at. So if you kind of make your plan and say, I'm going to label all of my censuses by the state, the city, the last name, the first name of the head of household, and then the year, then all your censuses will line up with that. Again, the way I did my birth announcements, I've got last name, first name, and then birth index. So that tells me that it's just an index. I still need his certificate. Here is a record. So I actually have her birth record. So maybe I don't need her birth certificate. Death certificates, same thing here. I've got some indexes here. So that's for the entire state of Minnesota, the county of St. Louis, their death index. And that's just a picture of the death indexes so I know what death certificates I need to order. But here's an actual death certificate versus a death index. Two different things. So just be consistent in your labeling. City directories, I don't have a folder for that. So by all means, when you go into, get down here to it, to your master list file, let's create another folder. We'll go new folder and we'll call it city directories. All right, put it in there and boom, it's going to put it in alphabetical order. So now when I do city directories, I can now store them in a folder called city directories because it's a separate type of file. So for me, excuse me, for me, I'm going to file them by the type of record they are, and then my labeling will differentiate them as far as who they belong to. Yes, I will send you a link to where the webinar is going to be at. Oh, thank you, Elizabeth, for posting my link to my YouTube channel. Is that the right one? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's got the right one there. Okay, so let's see what else we've got here. So adding folders to a family name filing system. So a lot of people still like to do the family names. So the way I do my family names is anytime a man gets married, his wife starts a new folder. I'm going to attempt to include the chat when I post the webinar. This is my first time recording, so hopefully it's capturing the chat and the chat will be able to play through as the recording goes. So when I say anytime a man marries, his wife starts a new folder, this is kind of what I'm talking about. Let's see. Pull this back up. So if we look at my father's line, or rather my adoptive line, this is my adoptive line. So this is my dad's line. If I go in here, we've got my dad, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, double great, triple great. And I put numbers here so that they would stay in the order of how they are related to me. Father being first, double great, triple great being last. Okay, so I do it by date and document type because I'm a lumper. I'd rather see all of my files in the same type of file in a folder and then sort it within that folder instead of putting them with family names. Okay, so under my DB line, that's my father, his father, his father, his father, his father. So it's the whole male line under DB because that's my dad's name. Now Grant is my mother's name. So under there would be my mother, her father, his father, his father, his father, his father. And then now Inch was John Grant's mother, so she has her own folder. It would be her, her father, her father, her father, her, or rather, excuse me, her father, his father, his father, his father, his father. Murray is Jean's mother's name, so it would be Jean, her father. Jean is her mother, so that's my grandmother. Her father, his father, his father, his father, his father. And then Paquette is my grandmother on my father's side. Her name is Eva, then her father, his father, his father, his father. Yeah, Donna makes a good point. Definitely if you get over 10, you want to put zeros in front of all of your single digits, otherwise your computer will not sort them correctly. So once I get closer, these are just folders. I can easily go in here and I can rename this and call this 01 and rename this and call this 02, so that when I get to 10, it's going to stay in line. Okay, so this is how I sort, because this makes sense to me. I want my father's line and everybody in that line. I can quickly look under DB and see that direct line. I can look under my mother's name, maiden name, and see her line. I can look under my grandfather's mother's line and see it, my mother's line and see it, or my father's mother's line and see that. No, I'm actually putting them in the same thing. And if you look here in my DB folder, this is my direct line. But you see I have two shortcuts here that aren't in folders, and it's for John J. and William Ensign. They're not my direct line, they're cousins. So they're going to go under the DB folder, but they're not going to go in my direct line. So I can quickly look here and see how many indirect people I have and what kind of documents I have for indirect people. And then I can actually go into my direct line and see what kind of documents I have for my direct line. Open one of the subfolders. So there. So these are, again, all shortcuts, because the name lines that I have are just shortcuts to the actual documents that I keep in my master list, grouped by the file type. Yes, Melanie, it does help you focus on your direct line, but it also allows you to see who is your indirect. Now, by all means, I could go in here if I wanted to and create a new folder and call it indirect family, or whatever you wanted to call it, and then I could move these guys into that folder if I wanted to. See my direct branch. Okay, so we're not confused. That's my direct line right there. My dad is DB. My mother is Grant. My dad's father, or excuse me, my dad's mother is Paquette. My mother's father, his mother was an Inch, and my mother's mother was a Murray. So okay, so I keep everything in Legacy, and Legacy sorts it and attaches it to people, but you still have to keep the files on your computer. So I am organizing my files on my computer so I can quickly find them. If somebody says, you know, my cousin calls me and says, Linda, do you have a copy of the census from 1930? I can easily go to my files right here. I can click on U.S. censuses. I can scroll down to 1930. She's looking for a Georgia census. No, I don't have that. I only have 2 Minnesota censuses. Boom, I have found it quite easily. Or somebody could be working on the DB line and say, Linda, I found something for Jacob DB, and it happens to be a newspaper article, and I can go to Jacob DB, making sure that I'm on the right one, and I can go, oh, I don't have that newspaper article because there's no shortcut here. Can you send it to me? So I can quickly find that information, whether somebody's calling me or talking to me about a specific name or a specific document. Okay, so again, this organization is for organizing on your computer the documents that you're getting offline, that you're going to the library and getting before you put them in your legacy family tree or into your family tree maker or into whatever database you're using to do your family tree. You can't drag and drop from legacy. What you have to do is you actually have to attach it in legacy. All right, so what I did here, and as I looked at this, it kind of confused me, so hopefully it doesn't. If it does, by all means, don't look at this last slide here. But so if your father's name is Jones, you'd have a folder for all of the male Jones in the line, just like my DB line was all of the males in the DB line. So your mother's name is Smith. You would then create a folder for your mother, and then every male in her line. Then your paternal grandmother, her name was Brown. You would have her in a folder and all of her male line of Browns, her father, his father, his father, his father, but her husband is in the Jones folder. But these are going by lines. Then your paternal great-grandmother's name was Doe. She's still married to the Jones, but her folder would be for her as Doe and her male line of Does. Then your maternal grandmother being Green, her folder would have her in it and her male lines of Green, and her husband would be in the Smith folder. And then the maternal great-grandmother is Buck, a folder for her and her male line of Bucks, and her husband would be in the Smith folder. So you're organizing everything by the person's given last name. Women would be under their maiden name. And again, the way I do it works for me. It's one option, but the best way when you're looking at an organizational system is how do you think? If you create your organizational files on how you think, then you will be able to handle your files. Now, my daughter wants me to show her files because she does it a little bit differently. So let me make a quick change here. Let me see if this, okay, so we're on the last page. Bear with me one moment. You just have to make a quick change over, and I'll be able to show her files. Make sure I've covered everything in here. We've done master files, and those are the family lines. Yeah, okay. One quick second. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is Elizabeth's that she wants to show everybody. So for her genealogy, she has hers by location. So she has Europe and the United States. Yes, this will work with a huge database because you're keeping all of your files in one location and you're putting those shortcuts for the other way so that you can quickly find items. So absolutely it will work with a large database. Siblings and their downlines would go as secondary or not your main line, because your siblings are, their kids are going to be your cousins, so that's going to be not in a direct line. So the way she has hers, this is her master folder that has everything in it. So she has the county, she has the city, and then she has all of her records. So if we look at that and break it out, yeah, she is very OCD. So this is hers. So she would have the county, the city, and then all of her records. That's her master file. So if we go to Arizona, well, she didn't have the county on that. We'll go to Minnesota. So in Minnesota, she has Hennepin County, LeSueur, Ramsey, and Rice. So if we go in there, then in Hennepin, she has Minneapolis. In LeSueur, she has two cities, Lanesburg and Montgomery. Ramsey is St. Paul, and Rice, she has Erin and Wheatland. Then inside that are all of her files. So she has her files sorted by location and then lumped by file type. So that's how she does it. Jeff from Legacy Family Tree also does his sort of like this, so that she's watched his videos and that's how she likes to do it. I find it a little bit drilling down too much. So let's see, what is the county name? What if the county name changes? Good point. If the county name changes, then you would actually be able to, we'll do Arizona on this county name. If you go in here and we'll rename this to, it started out as Maricopa County, and then let's say it changes to, go to rename that. Let's say it now changes to Tempe County. You could then go Tempe, like that. Now you can see that this is Maricopa, but it's also Tempe County. Right, and so again, this is how her brain works. It works for her. While it may seem too far gone for some people, or too detail oriented, that's fine, but this works for her. So again, your organization, you can get ideas from other people, but until you review how you analyze documents and how you think, that's going to be the best way to come up with the best organizational filing system for you, if you don't remember the location for that individual. Right, so for her system, yes, it's going to be a lot more difficult for her if she can't remember that somebody's in Hennepin County or they're in LeSueur County. Absolutely. Whereas the system that I have, I can either look by the file type, a birth certificate, a marriage certificate, a death certificate, or if I know the name, I can directly go to the name in my names folders, and it will point me back to the files that relate to that person. You can search a person's name, so if their name is on the tag and you've tagged them, or their name is in the filing system, you can do that as well. So we'll do that. We'll search her United States, and we're going to search her United States for we're going to search it for Philippek, and it's going to come up and it's going to give me all of her Philippek files. Now she's still going to have to review these to see what she has and to see if it's the file that she needs. So she's going to have to do a little bit more work, more than just the Philippek. She's going to have to do a search a little bit more detailed, where on the filing system that I have, I can do a search for Philippek, and it's going to pull up everybody in the Philippek folder, and I'll be able to see them. Right. And now Elizabeth's system would absolutely work if you're doing a location intensive search, and I forget what Teresa calls or Tessa calls that, but if you're searching a specific area and you're going to do everything in that area, Harrisburg's pretty small, so if you did Harrisburg, North Carolina, and you just did everything about Harrisburg, Elizabeth's system, one place study, thank you ladies, Elizabeth's system would definitely work. Doing a family tree, when people have moved around all over across the country, my system might work a little bit easier, but again, it's how you think. So this source given genealogy versus person driven, right? Now again, Elizabeth's is more location driven, and let me go ahead and close hers and take hers off and put mine back on. And mine is a twofold, in that mine is driven based off of file types. We'll go in here. Mine is driven off of file types, but I also have a secondary filing system for shortcuts on my names. So I have my name line shortcuts and my master copies. Yeah, so a one-place study is where you study everybody in one place. And there are people who do that. Then there are name studies where you might pick a last name, like I have a very odd last name, DB. I could do a DB search or a DB study and just log everybody that's DB and try to tie them all together. No, in my master files under birth certificates, I do not have any additional subfolders. All of my birth certificates that I have for my entire family tree for my adoptive line is going to go in here. And as you can see, there's Countryman, DeVore, there's a DB, and there's a Keiser. They stay in there just like that. I can find birth certificates. I can quickly look if I'm looking at birth certificates and quickly see what I have and what I don't have. I then again create a shortcut, and I would put that shortcut in the DB name line to show by name what documents I have. You're welcome, Leslie. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your comments. So again, this works for me. Lumping all of the files by their name and putting them there, and then creating shortcuts in my names of my family tree so I can then analyze each individual person as far as what documents I have. Now, as far as, yeah, you could create a spreadsheet. Now, Legacy will give you a report after you've attached your files to Legacy. This process here is how to organize the files on your computer before you put them into Legacy. Absolutely love Legacy. Legacy has absolutely powerful reports. But before you can put the stuff in Legacy, you've got to have it organized on your computer so you can go back and find it if you're taking your hard drive somewhere else and you don't have that Legacy program on it. So at this point, does anybody have any additional questions or anything? This is the end of the webinar. No, the shortcuts are just through Windows. Again, this particular webinar was just about how to organize your files on your computer. Now, you could take that same filing system and you could apply it to your paper files, because some people keep paper files. So you could create your paper files and set them up as a file for all your birth certificates and for cemeteries and for christening, and then create your name folders and then just put a piece of paper in there to say where everything is filed. Okay, well, okay, so I have a My Passport Western Digital ultra slim hard drive. It's 1 terabyte, and it is no bigger than my cell phone, and all of my files are stored on that. I can carry it to the library with me, and I have all my files. So backing this up, you can actually back up your files. So you could back your files up to another flash drive, a hard drive. You can back it up to a CD. You should definitely back it up at least once a week. I am very bad, and unfortunately I do not keep backups, and I know one day it's going to bite me in the butt. I am trying to get that put into practice and keep a backup every week. Let's see, the screen's kind of going fast. Bear with me one moment. So can you organize this by the other way around, by name, and then create shortcuts to the type? Absolutely. If you think more along your name lines and you want to put those documents with a particular name and then create shortcuts to go back to the document type, absolutely. The only issue you'll have with that, again, is if you have a census record that has 10 people on it, where are you going to store the original census record? Are you going to store it with the head of household, or are you going to make 10 copies and put them with each person on that census? And that's why when I thought about this and how I think, I thought one census goes in a census folder, then shortcuts to all the people on the census. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so backing up to the cloud. The cloud is the internet. If you have a OneDrive, which if you have Microsoft Office Online, you'd have that. If you have OneNote, if you have, Evernote, you can back up to that. If you have Dropbox, you can back up to that. So it's just another storage location, just like a flash drive. It's just in the cloud, and you can access it anywhere at any time. Yeah, you can back up to Google. I know there's Google Docs, so Google has some storage online. I'm hoping that I can save the chat, and if, at least not have it saved, that it will scroll through and as the video plays. And the Western Digital hard drive that I got it on sale for $59 at Best Buy. I bought my daughter one as well, and again, no bigger than your cell phone, lightweight, and it just kind of plugs and plays. You saw how easily I changed them out here while we did the presentation. You ladies and gentlemen are absolutely so welcome. Okay, so for emails that you want to put into your files, the best thing to do is open that email, copy that information, or do a screen print, and then save it to your files. Yeah, emails there's a way that you can actually send the email to your files, but that could get tricky. So again, the best thing on an email, open your email up, and you can either do a screen print of it and then save it into your files, or you can copy everything out of the email and put it into a Word document and save it as a Word document or as a PDF. Yep, you can print to PDF. You can use a little bonus here for those people who are still here. If you have Windows 7 or more, there's this Snipping Tool. Get it to pull up. Now, if you notice I'll bring it over here. The screen for me is a little bit gray. If I click on this New button, everything highlights. I can then take and I thought I could bring it back up. Click on New, I can do this, highlight all of that. There's my screenshot of it. And then I can go ahead right here and save it. And I'll right now go ahead and save this for everybody so you can see what those files are. We'll go into my passport and my webinar, and we'll put that in organizational files, and I'll just put files by document type. That way I can send that out and attach that as well. So now there's the screenshot of all the documents. You could have a file folder for interviews. Absolutely. My list is not the end-all be-all. If you have other types of documents, by all means, you can add them in here. That's a great one to add to it. I didn't think of interviews, so there could be some that you would look, that you might think of that we don't have. By all means, add them. And yes, the snipping tool is Windows' best kept secret. Where is the snipping tool? If you go to the Windows Start menu, and then the little box at the bottom, and you can't see that on my computer, but it's a little box under All Programs where it says Search Programs and Files. You'll type the word snip, and then it will come up. And what I've done, so I don't have to do that all the time, is once it comes up, you can actually pin it to your desktop. And then you can pin it to your taskbar, and then it will always be on there. Yep, Jan, you and I think a lot alike. I've pinned mine as well, and it's always there. I click the button, and we're done. So any other questions or anything that you ladies have for me? It did. Actually was an hour and a half. It's 10:23, so I do appreciate you ladies and gentlemen for coming and joining me on this. Okay, so once the snipping tool comes up, I'll pull it back up. If you right click on it, and you don't see it on you see this on my screen, but it's not there. When it's on by your Windows screen, if you right click on it, there'll be a little button that says Pin to Taskbar. And then you right click and then you can pin it. I am always online on Facebook. By all means, if I understand your head is spinning, send me a quick link or a quick message, and I'll be happy to answer you. And yes, I do have the snipping tool how-to video on my YouTube channel. I've also got a couple of additional ones out there. By all means, watch them. Let me know what you think. Give me comments. Push those videos up so I can get more viewers. Snipping tool is not exactly the same thing as a screenshot. The screenshot is where you use your keyboard and hit print screen. Snipping tool allows you to pick and choose what you want to copy and take a snapshot of. Yes, and like I said, I do have the, hey Mickey, nice to see you.
Yeah.
I do have a video out there for the snipping tool. It's like 5, maybe 10 minutes long. It's very easy. Once you start using it, you will go, how did I live without it? Yeah, and I believe the Mac has a very similar version. Okay, it looks like Melanie says Command-Shift-4 does a snip on the Mac. Yes, Elizabeth was very helpful. Big virtual round of applause for her sending me these emails or these little messages as you ladies were typing, because I was more focused on the actual webinar, not watching the chat screen very much. Well, that again is all I have. If nobody has any additional questions, I will see you on Facebook or on YouTube. Again, by all means, shoot me a message on Facebook or IM me or anything. I'll be happy to help you out.